After so many years since graduation, I unexpectedly ran into Connor while working at the KTV. As I served the fruit platter, I kept my head down, afraid he would see my face. Tessa was sitting next to him. They looked like a perfect couple, both talented and attractive. "Waiter," Connor called out to me, "could you slice the oranges?" With my back to him, I sliced the oranges into pieces. Long ago, when I loved eating oranges, Connor would always slice them for me. He had a skillful hand, cutting each slice evenly. Back then, I thought he loved me. But later, I realized it was just his habit. While slicing oranges, he would think of everything but me. 4 years had passed, feeling like half a lifetime. Somehow, the topic among the guests turned to college romances. Someone mentioned, "I heard Connor had a girlfriend for 4 years in university." I paused for a moment. Connor just hummed in response. "It's nice, isn't it? 4 years, a complete university period." Connor didn't reply. The conversation turned awkward, and someone tried to change the subject. 4 years, that must be hard to forget, right? There was a silence, like a serene river. After a while, Connor chuckled lightly, "Not really." Tessa explained gracefully, "Connor doesn't even dislike her. We were at the same school, and she really troubled him back then. If it weren't for his ex-girlfriend, wouldn't Connor and I have gotten together sooner?" "Yeah, Tessa is a big star. How could his ex-girlfriend compete with a star?" The atmosphere warmed up again. I pressed my cap down, just wanting to leave quickly. As I cut the fruit, the knife slipped and cut my hand. I hissed in pain, drawing the guests' attention. "What's wrong? Can't even cut fruit properly?" Tessa complained. "I'm sorry, I'll bring a clean plate." I was about to leave when Connor suddenly called out, "Wait." He spoke deliberately, "Turn around." I felt frozen in place. 1 second, 2 seconds. The manager came over just in time. "Sorry, our staff is new and still learning. Today's fruit platter is on the house for you," he said to Connor. Then, to me, he winked, "Hurry up and bring a new one." I took the chance to escape. Later, the manager advised me, "Be more alert next time." We all started as newcomers. "If you get a complaint, you'll have worked for nothing tonight." "Thank you. Don't mention it. Be especially careful with that VIP room. Everyone there is an important guest, especially the youngest and most handsome one in the middle. He's the boss of an innovative tech company. We can't afford to offend him." "I'm a bit scared. Could you help me deliver the oranges?" "Sure." I breathed a sigh of relief. If there was anyone in the world who had thoroughly offended Connor, it could only be me. I was the ex-girlfriend he found annoying. I still remember that time in our freshman year. Connor, in his faded old clothes, stood out in the crowd of new students, visibly poor. I liked the cool tone of his voice when he spoke and the way his thin eyelids drooped when he looked at me. Connor was desperate for money, having missed out on financial aid due to favoritism. So, one evening after class, I boldly took his tender hand. "Connor, I like you. Be with me. I have money, we can share living expenses. If that's not enough, I'll even pay you for a kiss." Naturally, he refused. But back then, I was used to having my way and didn't understand defeat. The more he resisted, the more I persisted. It wasn't until I paid off his grandfather's medical bills without blinking an eye that he finally gave in to me. Naively, I thought I was doing a great favor. It took me a long time to realize that while I gained him, I also broke him. After we got together, he continued to work daily to earn his living. He rarely used my money, but things got worse. Rumors spread around the school about Connor. They said he sold himself for money. His classmates' looks changed, some even gave him unpleasant nicknames. I, still naive and optimistic, held his hand and told him to ignore them, not realizing he was fighting a lonely battle. In our senior year, my family went bankrupt. I didn't tell Connor. I just called him out and said, "Let's break up." "Why?" "I'm tired of you." And that was how we parted ways. I guessed he was happy to be free again. On the day we broke up, I broke my phone SIM card and took a train to another city to work and pay off debts. It wasn't until 3 months ago that I returned here. Connor seemed to be doing well. In just 4 years since graduation, he had become a rising star in the tech industry, featured in financial magazines. Tessa, the prettiest girl in our class who debuted in her junior year, ended up with him. Good for them. I pressed my hand against my chest, trying to suppress the bitterness. At 4 a.m., I finished work. I was the last to leave, and my colleagues, thinking no one was left, had turned off the lights and stopped the elevator. Annoyed, I pressed the elevator button, hoping to get it working. Maybe make a phone call? Connor's voice suddenly came from behind. I stiffly called my colleague. The elevator started again, and Connor and I stood in the cramped space. Do you always work this late? We can leave only after all the guests are gone. Is the pay good here? It's okay. I kept my head down, the brim of my hat covering my face. Connor didn't seem to recognize me. He made small talk and then glanced at his watch. This elevator is so slow. My girlfriend must be getting impatient. She's clingy and loves to act cute. I realized he was talking about Tessa. What about you? Don't you have a boyfriend to pick you up this late? I live close by. When the elevator door opened, I rushed out. Connor, who had been calm for several minutes, finally exploded in anger. Why are you running? Where can you run to? Vera. Disappearing without a trace, was that fun for you? Connor closed in, still the same person from my memories, only now more mature and restrained. Your phone was disconnected, even the teachers couldn't find you, Vera. You're really something. I slowly raised my head, meeting his gaze. You must have used your connections to find out. My family went bankrupt, my dad got involved in financial disputes, and we're still paying off debts. Why didn't you tell me then? He asked. I was speechless. Was it because you couldn't swallow your pride, Missy? No, I replied, just as Tessa approached. Vera. Is that really you? She was even more beautiful than in college, every hair in place. We've been looking for you. Why haven't you been in touch for 4 years? I went south. No wonder, Tessa observed my worn coat, surprised. Vera, isn't that the down jacket you bought in your junior year? It's all run down, why are you still wearing it? In the past, I only wore new clothes for a year before discarding them. She wanted to embarrass me, but I was numb to it now. It's not broken, it still works. Tessa understood. Are you having financial difficulties? Just say it, old classmates can help. She pulled out a card. Take it, no need to return it. Thanks, but I don't need it. I looked at her and then at Connor, smiling quietly. I'm getting married soon, remember to come. Connor was completely taken aback. The KTV job was just part-time, I also worked during the day. On Monday, a client visited our company. The colleagues were gossiping. They say this client is a genius. He initially created this system to find someone. Who? His ex-girlfriend, maybe. I twitched, sensing something unpleasant. Did he find her? Don't know, the system isn't finished yet. Many big names have invested, and now our boss wants to collaborate. I arranged the documents and entered the meeting room where Connor was. Regarding the collaboration, I need to think about it, he said. I placed the documents on the table. Connor looked at me intensely. What are you doing here? Working. This was my main job. My boss curiously asked, Vera, do you know Connor? I considered my answer. We've met. Just met? Connor seemed angry again. What was he mad about? Wasn't he the one who left without looking back? He pointed at me. Mr. Lee, I'll sign the contract on one condition. Vera becomes my assistant. My boss agreed immediately, giving me no chance to object. They talked all day. In the evening, I was ready to leave on time, but Connor stopped me. Where are you going? I haven't let you off yet. Connor, I can't work overtime today, I have other things to do. What things? I have to deliver food. He looked at me incredulously. I used to be so delicate that I never touched takeout. In college, Connor would deliver food after classes. Often, his dinner was just a boxed meal from the delivery company. Once, I visited him and found him eating with a group of delivery riders, hastily eating rice from a box. I said, "Connor, how can you eat this? It's not clean." He looked uncomfortable and replied, "Does it matter if it's clean or not?" I pulled him to a steakhouse with an average cost of over $500 per person. He stood at the entrance, silently removing his delivery uniform. After my family's downfall, I finally understood his feelings that day. Just like today. It was snowing. The ground was slippery, and I fell, spilling the food. The customer scolded me over the phone for being late, not believing my excuse. My hands were cut and stinging in the cold, but I kept apologizing. Connor suddenly appeared, helping me up. I didn't know when he arrived or how long he had been watching. I instinctively hid my hands behind me. "Don't hide," his voice was hoarse, his eyes red. "Go wash them first. I need to deliver this first. Get in the car, I'll take you." The customer, living on the first floor, muttered, "Damn, even Porsche drivers deliver food now?" I had to take the next order, but Connor said, "Don't. I'll buy it." What? The system automatically accepted an order he had placed. "I'm buying your time for tonight." Connor drove me to his house. I stood at the entrance, unwilling to enter. "Tessa will be angry. You still have time to worry about others? Look at yourself, how you've fallen," he said. My clothes were dirty with snow. "Also, Vera, look at my room. Does it look like a woman has been here? You don't live together?" I was never really with her. Connor threw a contract at me. "She approached me 6 months ago for a collaboration. She didn't want to be subjected to the casting couch, and asked me to pretend to be her boyfriend. In return, she'd help me handle difficult clients." He paused, then explained further. "Some clients like to send women to people's beds, thinking everyone is swayed by that. I hate it, and Tessa helps me fend them off." The contract clearly stated that they wouldn't interfere in each other's private lives. Connor took my hand and tended to my wounds. I noticed a row of unopened hand creams on the shelf. It was the brand I used to love, and Connor had bought the whole set for his home. "I checked with your colleague today," he started solemnly. "You don't have a boyfriend. Last week at the team building, you even said you were single. Vera, you were deliberately lying to me, weren't you?" "I didn't lie to you." "Then show me a picture of you and that man." "We never took a picture together." "You, who loves taking photos, didn't take one with your new love." "You've reminded me, I'll take one next time." Connor was amused and frustrated by my response. He suddenly leaned on the sofa, engulfing me with his presence. Pinned down and unable to move, I could still feel his warm body heat through the sweater. "I bought your time. You know what you need to do, right?" "I'll return your money, Connor. I'm really getting married." He traced his hand down my shoulder, stopping at my wrist. "Getting married but still wearing a bracelet your ex-boyfriend gave you. Isn't that inappropriate?" The bracelet on my wrist had become dull over time. It was the first gift Connor gave me when I was 19. He worked day and night to get it for me. Did he, like me tonight, run around in the snow, fall, but still bravely move forward for this bracelet? But now? He's forcing me, overwhelming me. His house is filled with luxury brands I used to like. Is he still hung up on me or is he mocking me? I couldn't figure it out and inadvertently teared up. Connor froze and then became flustered. He's always been helpless when I cry. Just like before. He clumsily wiped my tears. Don't cry, it's my fault. I was just trying to scare you. Today's your 26th birthday. I've bought you a new bracelet." "What?" I had forgotten that today was my birthday. Connor took out a new gift box. "Look, do you like it?" He wanted to replace my bracelet. "Vera, can we?" Before he could finish, the doorbell rang. George stood at the door, cigarette in mouth. "Vera here?" I've come to pick her up. Who are you? I'm her fiancé. Didn't she tell you? Connor was stunned, the bracelet falling onto the carpet. I left with George. He didn't open the car window, just smoked one cigarette after another. I coughed from the smoke. George and I knew each other from before. Before my family went bankrupt, he confessed to me, but I was fixated on Connor and rejected him multiple times. Until last week, he suddenly came to me. George said, as long as I marry him, he would help me pay off my debts. I asked why. He smugly said, I want to prove that you chose the wrong person back then. Only I can save you. That poor boy will only drag you down. Oh, he wants to marry me, just for his heroism. Just to have one over me. How ridiculous. Today, I reluctantly let him help me. Just a phone call would have been enough, but I found an excuse to escape. I don't know how he ended up at my door. I asked coldly, why did you pretend to be my fiancé? What's the difference? We're getting married soon anyway. I haven't agreed to marry you. Do you have any other choices? Missy, wake up. You're drowning in debt. Who else would marry you, except me? That guy just now? George was contemptuous. He's your poor boyfriend from college, right? Let me tell you, he came back just to humiliate you. You used to dominate him, and now that you're down on your luck, who knows what he's thinking? That's none of your business. How can it not be? He stole you from me before. Now it's my turn to rub it in his face. George, I am not your property. I didn't agree to you then, and I won't in the future. I got out of the car, and George didn't stop me. Whether you agree or not, is that up to you? Vera, think about your family. His frivolous demeanor somehow reminded me of the past. Those who gossiped and mocked Connor, they must have been like this. Could Connor think of me the same way? Word of my return spread among my classmates. Along with the news of my family's plight. Classmate Wanda reconnected with me. She was getting married and asked if I'd still be her bridesmaid. It was our old promise that the last one to marry would be the bridesmaid for the others. On her wedding day, many old classmates came, and I reconnected with them. Wanda, in her wedding dress, had tears in her eyes. Vera, I always thought you'd be the first among us to get married. If I were married, how could I be your bridesmaid? You dare to say that, after disappearing for 4 years? I was so angry. I was wrong. I won't leave again, I'll stay and make it up to you. Wanda burst into laughter through her tears. Why did you disappear like that? If you had troubles, we could have helped you. I looked down at my toes. Thinking for a while, I shared my heartaches of these years. I had never faced such a huge setback in my life, Wanda. My whole life collapsed, I didn't know what to do, I couldn't face everyone's gaze, even their pity hurt me. It was impulsive, I just erased all my contacts. Wanda sighed, Connor was almost going crazy looking for you. What? I was stunned. You didn't know? He tried everything, asked teachers, the school, almost reported to the police. As a poor student back then, he didn't have many connections, couldn't find you, and went to your house. Wanda continued, watching my reaction. You know how scared he was of your parents, but he mustered the courage. Who would have thought, your whole family was gone, even your parents? That was the first time I saw Connor break down. He sat at your doorstep, crying like a dog. Later, he heard you might be in the South and went looking for you but couldn't find you. Where were you? I spoke slowly, because we were constantly chased for debts, my family changed names, moving almost every fortnight. No wonder he couldn't find you, Wanda clicked her tongue. Eventually, he returned to Beijing disheartened and started working on his people-finding database system. I didn't understand. I thought Connor didn't care about my whereabouts. Before graduation in senior year, I overheard him talking with his dorm mates. One classmate asked him, "What's your plan after graduation, marry Vera?" Connor coldly said, "No way." That day, I was deeply hurt. Soon after, my family fell into hard times. I broke up with him directly, and he made no effort to hold me back. But why was he searching for me everywhere? Did he only regret losing me? I was confused. When Wanda threw the bouquet, I was distracted and didn't catch it. The bouquet landed in Connor's hands. The host said, "This gentleman caught the bouquet. Congratulations, congratulations, a good omen. Will you take it back to your girlfriend?" "No need to bother with that." Connor walked towards me, offering the bouquet. The whole place cheered, almost lifting the roof. Even Wanda screamed. I was in a dilemma, whether to accept it or not. "Connor, you've already seen my fiancé. Although it was a lie. I don't believe your taste could be that bad. Just pretend it is. Fine, even if he's real." Connor leaned in close, whispering in my ear. "Then abandon him and come back to me." His deep voice was like a spell, full of temptation. I almost gave in. Just a little more. After so many years, Connor still had a crazy effect on me. After the ceremony, all the old classmates came to drink with me. I accidentally drank too much. Later, I remember sitting in the stairwell. No matter how lively it was outside, the stairwell was always the quietest place. Connor found me. "Why are you here?" I turned back, pouted at him. Then burst into tears. "Connor, I'm tired." Connor took responsibility for sending me home. I cried the whole way, unable to walk, and after getting out of the car, he had to carry me. "I'm so tired, working every day, when will it end?" Yesterday a customer splashed wine all over me. It was so unfair, it wasn't even my fault. "Connor, I want to eat salmon and sweet shrimp. Woo woo woo, I almost forgot their taste." Drunk, I was talking nonsense. Connor patiently comforted me, but I couldn't really hear what he was saying. The last thing I remember, he put me on his sofa. He asked me, "What's so good about that guy?" In a daze, I replied, "He helps me pay off debts." "I can too, Vera. I'm better than him. I know your likes and dislikes, know how to make you happy. Vera, please, don't disappear again." I don't remember anything after that. The next day, I woke up in Connor's bed. The dining table was filled with various types of sashimi. And a plate of oranges, sliced into even pieces. Connor said, "I asked for a leave for you. You don't have to work today." "Oh." As I sat down, I suddenly sprang up again. "You asked for leave on my behalf?" "Yes." "You spoke to my boss?" "What's wrong?" "He might get the wrong idea. Between you and me, everything is real. What's there to misunderstand?" "I've asked your boss. You're not taking a programming position because it allows you to work part-time jobs?" "Yes, programming jobs may pay well, but they always require overtime. I make more by working several part-time jobs each month. Starting next month, go back to programming. You can quit the part-time jobs." "No," I declined softly. "I haven't written code in a long time. I'm rusty." "No problem, I'll teach you again." He attentively peeled shrimp, dipped them in sauce, and placed them in my bowl. Just like before. He always carefully peeled each shrimp for me. In college, I actually didn't do well in programming classes. But with a genius boyfriend offering free tutoring, I couldn't do too badly. "I've really forgotten everything," I murmured. Connor scribbled a few lines on paper and sat beside me. "These are the basics. I'll help you remember." At that moment, it was like returning to the past. My young love sitting next to me, gently explaining the problems. After dinner, I wanted to go back to my place. I didn't let Connor accompany me. On the subway, lost in thought, I suddenly received a WeChat message from Tessa. "Vera, don't hurt Connor anymore, okay?" "Me? What do you mean?" "All these years, he's actually been wanting to repay you." "Repay what?" "Money." Tessa sent a screenshot. Connor in a college dorm group chat, saying, "Paid off, relieved." Others, "Congrats Tilda. Finally shed such a huge burden. Now I'll be spiritually free, haha." I was dumbfounded. A debt message came in. "All debts have been fully paid, repaid by Connor." My entire body felt frozen. My hand holding the phone trembled. Reflecting on everything. Connor searching for me like crazy. After reuniting, promoting me, giving me a raise. Things he said, things he did. Including last night. It turns out, it was all to repay a debt. That's all. The day I drank a little and saw Connor. I vented all the suppressed emotions of the past few years, and ended up crying. Can you wait for me? I'll repay all the money. Connor started to get flustered again. What are you talking about? And why did you suddenly get angry earlier? It was wrong of me to pay your debts without asking, but you can't just ignore me. You see me as a burden, how could I dare approach you? I said. A burden? Connor frowned. Who told you that? Tessa. Wait, could she be causing trouble between us? But the screenshot surely wasn't fake. I pulled up the chat history. Connor was visibly angry. I wasn't talking about you. He showed me his phone's chat history. He told his roommate that he had cleared a batch of overdue project fees for the company. Those conversations occurred afterward. Somehow Tessa got hold of the chat, cropped it, and twisted the meaning. But how did she know you were going to pay off my debts? I asked her for advice on repaying someone else's debt. She has experience in that area. Connor drove us to his place. The third time here, but with entirely different emotions. Let's clear the air today, Connor said as he poured me a cup of coffee. Vera, I have many questions for you. Ask away. Why did you break up? I became a burden, and I thought it was better to break up. Not because you were bored of me? I paused, remembering that bored was the reason I gave when breaking up. After hearing those words, Connor walked away without looking back. He said solemnly, I thought you saw me as a toy. After 4 years, you got bored, and with the family crisis, I couldn't help much, so you didn't want me anymore. Why would he think that? I opened my mouth to respond, but Connor quickly interjected, even if that's the case, it doesn't matter. As if afraid of hearing my answer, he showed his hand first. Vera, I've made up my mind. Even if just as a plaything, I want to stay by your side. Connor's eyes, dark and glossy, were just like before. I took a while to digest his words before responding, you misunderstood. That was said in anger, Connor. I never saw you as a plaything. I was serious about our relationship. Why was it said in anger? Before the graduation ceremony, you told a classmate you wouldn't marry me. Connor was taken aback. He reminisced for a while, then laughed bitterly. What I meant was, just after graduation, I wasn't financially capable of marriage. Actually, I had been looking at engagement rings for a long time, but I couldn't afford them. We reviewed several incidents. Realizing we both had misunderstood each other. Why did this happen? The fundamental reason was the huge disparity in our real-life circumstances. Connor thought I was supporting him for fun. And I thought Connor was with me out of guilt. Neither of us believed the other truly loved us. Back to the present. Connor asked, Vera, why would you rather accept George's help than mine? Because I like you, I didn't want our relationship to turn into that kind of transaction. Suddenly, I understood. Connor nodded. Exactly, I felt the same way back then. Wait, did you like me when I confessed? Yes, Vera, I liked you, actually even before you did. So the person I liked had been waiting for me all along.